Hi, Peter.
Oh, how are you?
Doing great. I think we're all live and ready to go.
Fantastic. Good to see everyone. How's your Sunday going?
Oh my goodness, lots happening. Some hard news, some exciting news. So it's like a mixture of of things. I think a lot of us are going through that at the moment, and yeah, just letting things process, and also excited about what the future holds.
That seems like a fairly positive outlook with everything considered.
How about you, Peter?
Yeah, I'm okay. Trying to get used to my son being a little bit more physical than you'd maybe like. Um,
Oh,
yeah, he's going through that phase. I'm just adjusting my camera. Sorry, everybody. I think that's about right. Yeah,
perfect.
he's going through that phase where he's trying to work out how he interacts with the world, which basically involves hitting stuff, smashing stuff, dropping stuff, pushing stuff, pulling stuff, and whether that's a human or an object you don't want broken. We maintained all of our plates and bowls from our wedding until the quarantine. And I think we've got like three of that left, one of that left, two bowls, but fair enough. That's what it is. They're just plates and bowls, so that'll do. So what are we talking about today, Jess?
Oh my goodness, great question. It made me think about stages of development of men, what you just shared about
Ah,
your son.
well, this was groundbreaking for me. So yeah, why don't you talk us through it and tell us what it is?
Oh my goodness. So so when I talk about it in my workshops, I have a cheat sheet. So let me pull that out, and I have it right here so I can make sure I share the right information. One of the things that I'm a big proponent of is I'm not an expert. I mean, what only makes me an expert would say the amount that I've studied and the information I have collected along the years and that I've applied and seen what's worked and what hasn't worked and the things that I've shared. And this is what I say, like, don't take what I say for an absolute truth, right? I have learned it from other sources. I didn't come up with any of this on my own. Sometimes I can tell you a story, I can give you my experience, but go out and try it for your own. See if it resonates with you. And that's what Peter just mentioned when I talked to him. He came to actually one of my workshops I did with my business partner, Prema, on mastering love. And we did a workshop a few months ago before the coronavirus, and we talked about the stages of development. And Peter found himself on one of the categories, and you said, "Oh my goodness, that's totally me." And it's not like I'm going to tell you what stage you're at. I'm just going to share the stages and then see what resonates and what doesn't. So what's really interesting with the stages of development, that's from Alison Armstrong. So again, if you want to go in more details, I highly recommend Alison Armstrong's work. I think it's called understandingmen.com is the website. And one of the things that you mentioned about your son is, so she talks about the development when they're age zero to puberty, they're what we would call a page. And pages want to be free, they want to go off and great adventure. They slayed a dragon, and he wants. So if you think about a page, he sees a knight. So teenagers and sometimes late 20s, he sees them as, they have the car. So he wants to drive the pretend car, or he has the wooden swords, and he tries to climb the biggest tree, and he uses that strength, right? So he wants to carry the biggest bag when mom brings back the groceries because he wants to show how strong he is. And he dreams about becoming, right? He looks at all the knights around him and he dreams of being that. His ambition is to be a knight and then a king and be a grown-up. And one of the ways to channel that, and what Alison Armstrong talks about, is to channel it through having him be a hero, making him be your little hero. So finding ways, I don't know, you're probably already doing that, finding ways for him to feel like he's saving the day or helping mom do this and that. And, you know, having him do tasks that make him feel like he's being your hero will make him feel really important and really happy. So that's the first stage of development, like the first stage. And what's amazing about the stages of development of men compared to women is it's linear, they don't go backwards, only on one stage, and it makes it so much easier to understand than women. So you guys are a blessing. Thank you so much.
So let's fast forward through a couple of them, Jess, because they're insanely valuable, and I would recommend anybody go and look this up. But let's dive into the personal experience to help people understand for a second. So when I met Jess, actually this conversation, Jess, that you and I had was before the workshop. It's the first time we met. And it was when we met Sean Callaghy, actually. It was when I met Sean for the first time. And I was describing the fact that I'd been doing this in my life and I was going through this and everything went a little bit wrong. And you said, oh, you're in the tunnel. I'm like, what's the tunnel? And you said, yeah, it's the stage between Prince and King. And what I've found talking to a lot of men that I know is a lot of men have been forced into the tunnel, right? By this period of a quarantine, they've actually been forced into it further because they're questioning their life, which is the Prince, you know, King type thing. And I'd like you to describe that bit a bit more. Just to help men and women understand the reason that men might be acting in the way they're acting right now.
Perfect. Let's do it. So you also have the nights, which I feel like a lot of women might be experiencing that too. So I'll quickly talk about nights, Princes. I'll go quickly. Thank you for that gentle nudge. So nights can be, you can have a knight that's in his 50s, right? Generally, they're teenagers in their or late 20s. And the knights, you can find that what they're doing, it's all about getting attention. They all about having adventure, all about conquering. Not much responsibility. They don't want a lot of responsibility. And what that happens is, you know, in this time, maybe maybe no, for sure, they're finding themselves, if they're quarantined, where they can't go out on adventure. They had to, their armor and their sword have to be put down temporarily, and it can really feel like torture for a knight because he feels like he's in prison. And one of the things, for those who have done, I know some of you watching have done Tony Robbins' work and things like that, and that one of the most powerful moments for me at a Date with Destiny is when the men all shout, freedom!
Yeah, I was about to say, let me guess, freedom!
100%. Where all the men talk about freedom and how important that is for them, right? For us, the feminine energy. And when I say men and women, please take it from here on out. I just mean feminine, masculine energy, whichever you identify most. So the men do that because it's the most important. For women, for us, it's to feel safe. Whatever it is that makes us feel the most safe. So right now, if a man is not feeling freedom, he may be acting very weird and he may be losing his patience. And there's even a biological chemical where the testosterone isn't being developed as much, and the estrogen is taking over. And so you might see there's an incredible podcast that I could share with Alison Armstrong talking exactly about that. So those are the knights. Then you have the princes, right? So you have 3 stages of princes, late 20s to 30s. Again, this is just an idea. You can have a knight in his 50s. But usually what we see happen is once, you know, after college, starting work, they wake up one day and they see, well, I don't really have much to show for myself. And they see what they're not. They're not a king, right? You haven't gotten there. And so they start building. This is the building phase. So you have 3 stages: early stage prince, mid stage prince, and late stage prince. So in this moment, if you have somebody that's an early stage prince is you're figuring out what it is you're going to be hunting, what it is that you're going to be building. So you might You might try another. You might go here. You might go there until you find, and it could take 2 days, 10 minutes, or it can take 5 months. It could take 2 years. It really depends. You're trying something until like it fits the mold, right? And you're like, okay, I'm on the right path. My visual is when you're, I'm from Switzerland, so we do a lot of skiing. And there's the soft skiing, I don't know how you call it in English, where cross country skiing and you have to go in the path. So you imagine yourself like they're trying to find the right path and there it's in the path and they're managed to, then they start going. And then, so a prince that's like kind of not really sure he's going right now, it could be a very exciting time because he's going to be trying a bunch of things online, studying, doing all this stuff. Or he might be completely discombobulated by the current economic situation. He thought he was going one way, now things need to pivot, and it feels very uncertain. Then you have your mid-stage prince who's been building. And all of a sudden, some people are finding themselves unemployed, or some people are finding themselves, they had to lay off a bunch of staff or restructure their whole business. And that's why I really recommend that you're on our business calls with Peter every Monday. So tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time, where we talk about business so we can help you and support you in that aspect. But being with a prince in that stage, he's used to being out working, right? I have certain clients of mine, women, who's like, he used to never be home. He used to never be home. Now he's home all the time. And it's a different dynamic, right? When you had your hunter hunting and now he's back in the cave. And for him, it's also very weird. It feels very uncomfortable to have to stay in the cave and not go hunting. So that's one aspect where he's hunting, and all of a sudden maybe he can start getting appreciation to, sorry, the squeakiness. I have a little puppy at home and he found his squeaky toy. Yes, finding appreciation for the fact that right now he's home, spending more time with family where maybe it wasn't. So it really is a shift of perspective where he can be frustrated or he can be grateful for the moments that he didn't have. And then you have a late stage prince, and that's a beautiful stage. And I'm since you're saying, Peter, that you may be in the tunnel stage, you felt that prince, late stage prince, where, oh, I can see the light of the tunnel. This is I got my eggs all lined up, my ducks in a row. I mean, that's the expression, I think. And this is gonna be great. This is gonna be great until, oh my goodness, the worst is yet to come.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, that was like late 2018. I knew my craft. I got married. I had kids. I was good at what I did. I enjoyed what I did. And everything was great until November 2018, where the wheels just fell off, and nothing externally had changed. You know, my wife still loved me. I had a great house. You know, I loved my daughter. I still love my daughter, by the way, but I, you know, love my family. I felt validated by my job. I was working with people I enjoyed. And then for me, the shift was forward thinking, realizing that at some point my daughter and I would have a conversation about, where did we earn this money, Daddy? And I realized that I didn't like the answers I'd have to give to her. And I wasn't doing anything illegal. I wasn't doing anything particularly immoral, but I wasn't doing anything, I wasn't congruent with my values. I wasn't doing things that, if you ask me, what world do you want to create? What world do you believe should exist? And then you looked at what I was doing and went, so does that match this vision? Does doing that get this vision closer to reality? And the answer was no, it actually goes the other way. And yeah, we then met a few months later as these wheels are falling off, with me just going, I just don't know what to do. Right. And just to give you some visualizations for the ridiculousness of this for everybody, I learned to make jam, right? In an effort to try and find a passion, right? I learned to make jam. I learned how to bake bread. I built half a bench. I didn't build all of the bench, which is still a constant reminder in my relationship of, are you ever going to finish that bench? I did some plumbing badly, so the leaks are now worse than they were before I started. My energy, because I was used to being such a driven individual, I'm like, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. Just went in all of these places, just trying to find something that I was passionate about, until I met Jess for the first time, and she went, "Oh, you're in the tunnel," and I'm like, "Excuse me." So go on, Jess. So what is the tunnel?
Little reframe. I don't think I said you're in the tunnel. I explained the stages and then you went, I'm in the tunnel.
You're right, yeah.
And it's important for that, because for those watching us, we have a tendency, especially women, we do, to tell people where they are, what they're doing, and controlling, and it's not our place. You can already imagine where your man or your friend or your son or your brother or whatever is, but it is not our job to tell them where they are. You can give them the information. They can choose to listen or not. You can, and then if it's helpful, so for example, oh my goodness, one of the things I teach, I did the stage of development, I shared it with Peter, and he goes, oh my goodness, and then we went in more depth. We were walking, I think we were walking, I don't know if it was in Cali, we were walking on the street somewhere in Miami, we're going to party, and somebody else, I was like, oh, or maybe Fernando was like, oh, which one am I in? And I'm like, I'm not here to tell you. And we're not. So please, this is my request. When you're learning any of this content, it is to apply it in your own life, share the content, share the links, but do not tell people where they are. That's not our job. We don't know. We don't really know. So so then I talked about the tunnel. And then and I've experienced being with somebody that I met in the Late Stage Prince, who introduced me actually to Alison Armstrong's work and was convinced he was out of the tunnel. And he was actually Late Stage Prince after we talked about it now. And when we got together, like a few months in, the tunnel hit. And this is the only time a man can decide to either go into the tunnel and through it, or goes into the tunnel and goes, hell no, and comes back out and goes, nah, I'd rather just be a prince. I don't need to be a king. But most men who go through the tunnel, who have the courage, because ladies, it takes a lot of courage to go through the tunnel. And we will never know how it feels for a man to go through the tunnel. We as ladies, they will never know what it feels like to give birth. We will never know what it feels like to go through the tunnel. And I feel sad for men sometimes, because society portrays like, oh, he's having a midlife crisis, or, all those things that are degrading. They're not very nice things to say about our incredible men who are going through the tunnel in order to become kings for us. They're doing that not just for themselves. Like Peter was saying, one day I will have to tell my daughter. It wasn't about him. It's about what matters. So one day a Late Stage Prince wakes up and goes, what's the point? What was the point of all this? And completely loses sense of self. Completely. And at the same time, it all, like the beep hits the fan all at once, where you not only have the sense of self that's gone, all the self-doubt, incredible self-doubt, but at the same time, sometimes business can be hitting, a pandemic can be hitting. It just all seems like it's happening all at once, and there's no way out, or there's no visible way out. Time out. For a woman, what will we be wanting to do? Especially if we've been with our man for a while. We've had a man who's been a prince, who's been our rock for 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, who has always known what he stands for, who has been hunting and who's been bringing home the bacon or whatever it is that it looks for him as building, and made us feel very safe. And all of a sudden, he goes through a tunnel and completely loses sense of things and starts questioning everything. We try to control. We become really bitter, right? If we're not conscious of it. And I know that one of the things that, Peter, you share about your wonderful wife, Liz, the first time I met you, is you gave her so much accolades and so much incredible comments and appreciation, because she didn't let that derail her. And she was just supportive, and that is the best thing we can do. We cannot help them out of the tunnel, ladies. We can't do it for them. The only thing we can do is work on ourselves, for us to develop more of our queen-like qualities, take care of our own and see like what do we stand for as a woman, as our own queendom, right? What actually matters for us, and and appreciate and love our men that are going through this, and understand that it is nothing to do with you. And a lot of times I see like, oh, he left me for the secretary, or he left me around that age time and around that transition time. Well, yeah, if we become so scared, and I have compassion for both, because as a woman, I can see how I went through it. I knew this content, guys. I knew this content, and what do you think happened? That I was like super zen and I was as enlightened as Peter's wife? Nope. I held on and I controlled and I wasn't understanding and I got so scared and I freaked out and I became a total not nice person, lack of a better word. And that, what does that happen? That just pushes them away. Pushes them away. So our best way to handle this is to support them, to love them, let them do their thing. Say, you know, is there anything I can do? No, okay, and that's it. Like, just let him go through it, and of course, have your boundary, right? If he's out, you know, drinking the whole time and not doing anything and creating things that are completely against your values, not saying, you know, let yourself be abused or all that. I'm completely against those things, but my belief is that as long as it's not like a huge non-negotiable cross the line action or behavior, let them just be. Let them just take their time, figure it out, support, love them, believe in them, have faith and believe in them, and don't judge, don't nag, don't control, don't criticize. So what, you didn't finish the French, whatever, right? It's like
I mean, I still haven't finished it, right? But
okay. Was that a little helpful? And then I'd love to talk about Kings. So is there anything you'd like to add about that tunnel, Peter?
yeah, I would say, to, as you said, I think the fact that my wife supported me through it was amazing. I would also say to anybody else, on the outside, it really doesn't look like there's anything going on. But on the inside, and I can only speak to my personal experience and other people that I've spoken to when I've kind of seen this, my identity was driven by how I acted, what I did, how hard I worked, who I was, and that's what gets stripped away from you. And the false identity is just gone, and you're like, what am I doing? And the other thing I'd like to just stress is, let's just look at the three other actors / actresses in this little play that we've got going on. We've got my daughter, my wife, and Jess, you, right? And you'll notice that none of the sources of change were initiated by me. Now, I was responsible for it once I understood things, but what led me to the problem was my daughter saying, Daddy, will you come and play Lego? That was literally the moment where I was like, no, I'm too busy, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And I walked out the door and I'm like, what am I doing? Why? I have an individual right now, and I hope everybody gets to get this blessing in their life. And my daughter loves me in a way that no other human has ever loved me and probably will ever love me. But she believes I'm the most amazing, wonderful being in the world and adores me. And I was like, I just want to literally put that in a bottle. I want to bathe in this love from her. I don't want to go and build another web system for somebody. So that change came externally and then kind of led to the shake. You've got my wife supporting me all the way through it. But the important thing I want to talk about is what led to me being able to get out of that period was understanding that I was in it. Right? When it was identified, and all of these things are generalizations, but when it was identified and someone, i.e. Jess, said, oh, not you, right? You didn't say your name. You explained the concept. The freedom, literally for the first time in a year, I was actually able to breathe. Because instead of looking at myself and judging myself, because it wasn't actually walking, by the way, I can remember exactly where it was. It's such a big moment for me. It was at the penthouse that Sean Callaghan had arranged the after party for Unblinded.
Oh, we talked about it after the, yeah, okay.
And I felt like an imposter at that party. Now, normally parties are like my reason to be. I'm, you know, I'm dressed up, I'm looking good, I'm shaking everyone's hands, I'm talking to everyone, I'm getting new contacts, making friends. And I was literally sitting on the outside of this room looking in and trying my best not to engage with people, because I literally felt like an imposter in my own skin. I just didn't feel myself in any way, shape, or form. And when presented with a crowd of 100 people, and this isn't everybody but me, I'm like, yeah, I'm on fire. This is fantastic. And I was like, this isn't me. I'm literally just trying to distance and push everyone away from me. And it was a really nasty feeling. What I'm trying to get to for everyone, I am rambling a bit, I know, because it's a personal experience. What I'm trying to get to for everyone is accessing the knowledge is what led to me being able to then manifest what I wanted to manifest in my life. And that's why we're doing these calls, right? Because my hope and Jess's hope is literally one person hears this call and goes, ah, and literally has a light bulb moment go off where they go, oh, I get it now. Right, okay. So let's go back to princehood for a second. If you've got a guy that's a prince, whether it's early, mid, late stage, whether they're building stuff, they're doing this, they're defining their legacy, and they start displaying behaviors that are not in line with who you think they are in this time right now, my advice, give them a break, right? If they're, and as Jess said, within your own boundaries, if they're drinking too much, give them a break. If they're watching porn, give them a break. Just whatever weirdness is coming out, as long as it doesn't go against your boundaries, just give them a break, because it is not a marker on their behavior. And I find that people are very quick to judge a change in behavior and not understand how important time is in the equation. Like they've done studies on measuring grief of people after they've lost a near relative, and it's literally like a week. It's a week before the level of grief has halved, and it halves again after another week and halves again after another week. So that moment when you go, my life will never be the same, everything's terrible, everything's horrible, my advice is go to bed, because by tomorrow it will be slightly better, because what's going on is your brain is trying to use its existing patterns to process something that it can't process. And that's pain. That's true pain. And likewise for the guys, if the women in your life are developing behaviors they didn't used to develop, if it's not against your boundaries, give them a break. Because the social connections that they used to have, the ability to go out for coffee and just chat with their girlfriends, and that's gone. Or it's severely diminished. It's not gone. It requires a conscious effort. You can get it back. But that's the only thing I wanted to add, Jess, is that first of all, accessing knowledge and accessing support is key, because you're being presented with stimulus that you probably have no idea how to handle. So you're going to your brain's going to look in and go, does this work? Well, no. Does this work? No. Does this work? No. Well, I haven't got anything left. How am I supposed to cope with this? All the tools that you've got as a child, that you've developed through your life, are suddenly going to fail you. Because nobody, very, very, very few people have ever existed in a quarantine lockdown environment. So you've got no frame of reference. So my advice to everybody, if possible, within your boundaries, is give your partner a break and just see if you can find the place to just take a breath and be okay with it. You're on mute, Jess.
Thank you. 100% agree. Thank you for sharing that, Peter. I think one of the words that comes into mind is compassion. Is compassion for yourself, compassion for your partner, compassion for your kids, and understanding that it's a phase and no one's wrong. One of my good friends, actually, Sean Callaghan's girlfriend, Mona, my best friend, she always taught me nobody's wrong when I was going through my things, and we would share, and no one's wrong. No one's wrong. It may not be something that you want in your life. So when we're talking about big, like, boundaries or just non-negotiables, like the things that are really hard no's, then yeah, of course, it's still a hard no for you. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that it's not what you want. There's a little distinction there. But it's major. It's like they're not doing anything wrong. They're not nobody is misbehaving. Nobody is misbehaving. They might just not be doing what you want them to do, or that things that you're okay with, but that's your story. It's your own system. Doesn't make them wrong. So when you're communicating is also very important to come from a space of compassion and remembering they're not misbehaving. They're just, maybe, even if it's something that's completely non-negotiable, a hard no for you, right? There are certain things that are hard no for me. And for me, that's just, it doesn't work for me. If that's what you need to be doing, okay, that's just doesn't work for me. And you can talk like that, and it helps. And not making a man wrong ever is the best thing, especially during this time. Making each other wrong is just not a good idea. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the ultimate example of ridiculousness. A shopkeeper in a clothes store once, I was trying a jumper on over a t-shirt, and he asked if I would mind using the changing room instead of doing it in the middle of the store. Right, so I'm just trying a jumper on.
Yeah,
right?
sweater.
The sweater, yeah. So my response then was to try the trousers on and literally strip half naked in the middle of the store. I am a very particularly obtuse human being, but that is the degree of what can happen when you tell somebody what to do. Now, they may not be, as I said, as obtuse and insane as me and actually do it, but it's certainly what's in their head. If you tell and this is male, female, it doesn't really matter. You tell somebody what to do, you are literally holding a red flag to them if they have an ego. And you are saying, please go and do exactly the opposite. Whereas expressing, I'm not comfortable with, or can we talk about it, or can we consider, you're allowing the other person to be, and I love this phrase, is if you want to instill change in a relationship between people, this isn't necessarily romantic. I was taught this in the business world, but I think it applies equally. If you want to bring around change, allow the other person to be the victor. Right? If you want to bring around change, allow the other person to be the victor, not you.
The victor. Okay, I heard victim at the first. I was like, what?
Definitely not victim. No. If you walk in saying, I'm going to win, then you are literally giving you are setting in a path where the other person's going to try and win as well. And they might try and win even if they actually agree with you. Right? The amount of arguments, I am married, we argue, the amount of arguments we have where you actually work out at the end that you both agree. Right? You're like, hang on a second, what are we actually arguing about? We're both agreeing the same thing. Yeah, but you're wrong. Well, no, I agree with you. And it's because the way you start the conversation is about, I'm going to win. Right? And all of you can, even if I just say those words to you, right, we're not even face to face, and this isn't even towards Jess, this is anyone hearing this. If I say to you, I am going to win, I'm going to win, right? At least half the people that heard that would go, hell no, no, you're not, I'm going to win, right? I didn't even tell you what the game was, what we're talking about, but the feeling that you get from that is one of two things, depending on kind of your personality. It's either, okay, you are, if you're a more passive, latent person, but you didn't actually agree with me, you just acquiesce to me, or you go, hell no, you're not, I'm going to win. And it could have been the subject we actually agreed with. So we've only got a few minutes, 11 minutes left, Jess. So we need 2 minutes on what a king is. And then for the amusement, for me, for guys, let's just walk through the female version of what this is. So, the male version, page, knight, early prince, mid prince, late prince, tunnel, king, emperor, I believe.
A prince and sage. Sage man, wise man or something.
Yeah, so basically a continual linear thing of establishing dominance, self-value, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, 2 minutes on the king. We won't go through the rest of it because they are kind of extensions of the king.
Because the women are so complicated, I would prefer to do the women next week on Sunday.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah. I will prepare a little diagram ahead of time so I don't spend the time drawing it here today. And yes, because we are a little bit more intricate for those who haven't figured it out.
A little bit more. I'll give you the cheat sheet version, guys. A woman can decide which one of her different kind of personality points she's going to manifest on a minute-by-minute basis. For all the guys in relationships, I know I didn't tell you anything you didn't already know. but yeah, the female one is a bit more complex. So let's talk about kings then.
Yeah, so real quick, Kings, and just before that, I want to offer a little reframe in what you were saying about the I'm gonna win. And like some of you may be like, no, you're not, and some may be a little more passive. I would reframe the word passive. For example, if you're more of a feminine energy, you're like, oh, yes, please go win so I don't have to. And it's not a question of passive, it's a question of surrender. And a question is like, you know, I will take care of the home, take care of the cave, so you can go hunt. That's why all the feminine energy that haven't gone through any trauma or that much trauma, at the Tony Robbins, when all the men, when you have like 200, 300, 400 men stand up and they just shout at the top of their lungs, freedom in this like, hunter energy. And our hearts, I just get, even just thinking about it, gives me like the goosebumps and makes me melt. And it's like, oh my gosh. And so you can still have that energy and be a very strong queen presence, very, very strong presence. Because in order to be with a strong, strong king, once they're out of the tunnel, you need to find your queen. And so we'll talk about the stages of development of women next week. So make sure to tune in at 11 a.m. Eastern time every Sunday for our relationship day. And make sure to also post your questions. I'm here to answer your questions, not just to give you content. I can prepare it ahead of time if you put it on this video, if you're watching the recording, and then make sure to answer your questions when we come on live next week. So the king, once he's out of the tunnel, is somebody who owns himself and his kingdom. He now commands the respect of the knights, the princes, right? He has this sense of confidence and ownership. He knows what he stands for. Ladies, a king, if you're starting to date a king or you're in a relationship with your king, you will notice changing his ways is really not going to happen. Not that you can change a man before, you can definitely influence a lot more when they're at an earlier stage of development. A king, it's my way or the highway kind of energy. And they will love, they will protect, they will provide for those who are in his kingdom. And while he's in the tunnel, that's what he's figuring out. He's figuring out who's in my kingdom. Is it myself and my wife and my kids? Or is it myself, my wife, my kids, her family, her extended family? Or is it that plus my tribe, right? All of Hack Mankind's tribe? Is that what is it that I'm standing for? What is my kingdom? And who am I taking, and how am I going to provide, protect, and show up for them? And it's really interesting. Kings will offer the advice. Then you have the late thing, which is very, very rare, which is a wise man who's lost a total sense of self. So after a king, and that's very, very rare. It's more like you think of like a guru or a sage man in olden tribes. That's where you would go. He will not offer his help. He will only offer it when you ask him for help. While as a king, he might be telling you what to do. So that's a little bit, a really high level review of the stages of development. I highly recommend listening to Alison Armstrong. She's got great audiobooks. She's fun. And one of the things that is so important for me as a person, as a human being, and I think it's also something that we stand for, not that I think, I'm sure here at Hack Mankind, is that we stand for integrity and not, like, we are different, men and women, feminine and masculine, we are different, but we are equal. So there's no men bashing, there's no bashing making each other wrong, right? It's not like what ladies do is stupid and what men do are stupid. No, it's perfect and it serves a great purpose. And it's not that it's perfect, it's even beautiful. It's incredible. And please, if you have a man that's going through the tunnel, and is a prince and is suffering right now because he's not used to being in the cave. He's not used to having all these changes. So be kind, be compassionate, and most of all, take the time for yourself to be compassionate, kind, and not try to control everything. I think one of the big ones that we do is control. And letting go of control is so crucial. So crucial.
I would say something else actually. Listen to this. First of all, I would say that I think I haven't done the depth of research that Alison Armstrong's done by a long way and nowhere near what you've done. But everyone I've spoken to that has ended up in the tunnel, it's always an external stimulus that puts them there, And it's not just they wake up one day and do it. It can be the tiniest thing, but it's an external thing. And that's why I thought this was so relevant in this time of lockdown and quarantine, because I spoke to maybe 10, 12 guys that are literally like, I had a call at like 3 o'clock in the morning from a friend the other day. I'm like, are you okay? He was like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm like, no, are you genuinely okay? And as you unravel it, you just unravel this kind of, what's the point? I'm like, sorry? He's like, what's the point? I've done this and I've always been, the next step in my career, the next step in my career, the next step in my career. What's the point? And I'm like, you're in the tunnel. I'm like, no, I'm not going to tell you, but yeah. But I said, you should maybe tune into our relationship thing. There might be some nuggets in there that you want to take away. But the other thing I would say that I've kind of seen as a kind of an amusing thing, you talk about women having compassion if men are in that process, and I totally agree. But I'd also say this is your time to step up as well. Because if you get a king out the other side, you better be able to handle the thing you get out the other side. Because the guy that's going to emerge from the tunnel is, as Jeff said, and I'm going to say this in a lot more polarizing words, he's going to have a bigger ego than he did. He's going to know how he wants to do things. There's going to be very little space for, the prince is going here, he's going here, he's going here, he's doing this. And as long as things are fun and as long as he's building, he's cool. Right? So that can be there's a lot more fluidity. But if you listen to some of, like, in our back office, if you listen to some of our meetings, I'm like, no, we're doing it this way, and we're doing this, and we're doing this. Full stop, end of story. And you need a strength on the other side as a woman. You need a strength to be able to stay with that and influence it in the right space. So this is kind of like a Rocky montage for women as well. Of like, if this goes through the way it's going to go, you need to be able to handle that on the other side. And I see it as kind of like a training day moment for women as well, being able to say, this is, if he comes out of it and goes, yeah, I'm now a king, you need to be able to understand how to work with that. It's going to be different. It's going to require you to have a strength and a center to you that you maybe didn't necessarily have to bring forward before. That would be, and again, this is just anecdotal from me, but this is what I see.
I'm muted. There we go. We each experience it in our own way, and certain aspects you're completely right in the sense of it is the time for us ladies to, at any time, and we all you always experience mini tunnels, right? So some may think that they're in a tunnel, but they're going from mid-stage prince to late-stage prince, or whatever it is, or they're just a prince and they're shifting, and it could be a mini tunnel. You have the real tunnel, and then you have, and that's why when I was with my partner at the time, where he thought, when we met, he thought he had already gone through the tunnel. When he actually went through the tunnel, he was like, all right, now this is the tunnel. And so whatever it is, for us women, one of the things that you said is right, is it's time for us to prepare. And it is not in reaction. It is not with external forces. It is all internal. It is all working within what is my divine self, or if you don't want to call it divine, it's like, who do I stand for? What do I really believe in? Not what I should or shouldn't do. And also taking care of myself, right? A lot of times we put our kids first, we put our husbands first, we put everything first. And then even if we're not conscious about it, unconsciously, we expect something from it. We expect something in return. Well, whatever it is that you're expecting, I'm inviting you, and that's one of the little life hacks I can share today, is if you're expecting something to be given to you, to feel joy, to feel comfort, to feel safety, to feel love, to feel happiness, to feel whatever it is that you want to be feeling right now, that you are expecting from your partner, do it to yourself. Find ways, do a feel-good menu. I spoke about it on a call, and I can talk about it today on my recap, where a feel-good menu is a menu of physical, emotional, mental, and intellectual tools that you can then go pick from to feel great and to nourish yourself, and start doing that to yourself and see what you stand for and being your truth. And then when you have a king emerging on the other side, you have a king in front of you, you will know what to do and stand in your truth, in your queendom. And it's just so beautiful, and will create an incredible relationship. And also sticking by your king and not going, this is BS, I don't want to be here, this is too much uncertainty, you're too crazy, you don't have any backbone, or whatever it is that you would be judging. And I'm sorry if you're going through this and you're listening. Sticking through with your man in integrity and aligned with your values. Again, don't let them, cross to like big boundaries. He will love you at a level that you have never been loved before. The bond that you will create, the fact that you stood by his side during this time, will create an incredible bond between the two of you. Incredible bond. So ladies, it's up to you to decide whether it's worth it. But most of the time, it is. It really is. And it's an opportunity for you to take care of yourself. And maybe instead of relying on him for everything, call your family, call your friends, and see if you can do, like we have, make sure that you listen as well to Karen on our Thursday calls, education and kids. So if you have kids at home and you're having a hard time managing your relationship with your children and your husband and your wife, then make sure you tune into Karen call every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. She's got incredible life hacks on how to handle that. So one of the tips she gives is, for example, for me, who I don't have children anymore, I can do a Zoom babysitting session, right? While the parents can have a little time. So there are little hacks like that to give you more space. So, wow, the time has been flying by.
It does. I'll be bending her ear on myself on Thursday to say, so yeah, my son wants to destroy everything. She is, as you said, she's amazing, and as are all of our panelists. So just to wrap up then, Jess, final words, takeaways?
Be kind to yourself. Take this time to care for yourself, even if you're a man or woman, single or not, in a relationship, especially in a relationship right now, you can have a lot of tension. Take the responsibility, your own responsibility, to take care of yourself. And if you're having a hard time, this is why we have our support calls. Come on to our support calls. Right now we have one, right, I think in like 10 minutes, right, Peter?
Yeah, I'm hosting it, hence why we need to wrap up so I can have a bio break before I do it.
So yes, head on over to that so that you can, if you're having challenging time where you don't know how to take care of yourself, or you just want to vent. Sometimes it's good to vent. That's one of my emotional tools. Call a friend and say, I need to vent. Just, frank, like, I need to vent, and vent. And we can be a source of that. You can come in and vent. However, vent to then want to change. If it's just venting for venting, don't come. We were here to support you and to guide you. So yeah, my final thoughts is self-love. Self-love this week, please, self-love. And I'd love for you to join us next week and tell me, what were your self-love techniques? Share on the videos, comments below. What are your self-love techniques? What are you doing to take care of yourself as a man or as a lady? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jess. I would say, how do I wrap this up? Wow, another useful session. The group support call is actually next for our members. You'd have got an email this morning, as you do every day, with a Zoom link. Just click on that. And I would stress as well something else for anyone on the group support call. We are totally okay if you come on the call and lurk. Right? If all you do is hear other people's frustrations and their stories and their challenges, and that's going to give you value, that's totally cool as well. There is no need to engage if you don't want to. But we do find them to be very useful, and we find that we ask people quite regularly, are you getting stuff out of this, and course correct and move. And of all the things we've shifted around, the support call has kind of stayed quite specifically in the format it is, because the people that are there love the way it's done. So that's fantastic. So if you're not a member, if you go to www.hackmankind.com, there's a blue box at the top, and in that blue box there's an email. Fill in your email and hit sign up. You're not going to be asked for a credit card or anything else at this point. If you do that now, that membership, our kind of entry membership, is free for life. So there's not going to be anything else for you to pay. But I believe come Monday or Tuesday, we will have run out of free slots. So it's getting quite close, and we've got this a big thing happening on Monday, which will kind of, I think, push that over the edge. So now is the time. If you believe in better, whether that's better for yourself or better for humanity, now is the time to go to www.hackmankind.com, sign up, as I said, Free for Life. The Free for Life will always extend to doctors, nurses, EMTs, teachers, police officers, and firefighters, as we are incredibly grateful for everything you're doing for us, and it's our small way of saying thank you, to offer you whatever support we can. So if you're in the tunnel, don't panic. Go and read Alison Armstrong's work. Jess and I are huge advocates of it, and it will certainly help you. And if you're not in the tunnel and you're with someone that is, go and read Alison Armstrong's work. It has a lot to offer. So from Jess and myself, thank you very much. Great to see you. And for our members and VIP, we'll have the Zoom support call in 9 minutes, assuming that I get to the toilet and back in that time. Speak to you soon. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. See you next week.